Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jess and the Guest podcast. My guest today is the incredible Ben Higgins. Okay, I started this podcast as just a fun, easy thing to do, and it's actually changed the way that I view the media and people. Ben was so open and honest and kind, and you see a different side of him than I think you see on The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, or Bachelor in Paradise, or really any of the Bachelor shows. He's so funny and just incredible. We talk about his flashmob proposal, having a parasite while filming The Bachelor, which honestly sounds like my worst nightmare. But look, Ben and I are equally successful. Okay, sure, he has, millions of women vying for his attention. Sure, no problem. And yeah, Jennifer Aniston's a fan. Okay, cool. But you know what? I have, every guy I've dated has moved to a different continent. Right? Not country, continent. Okay. I've read the US some more douchebags in a fall study abroad program. All right. So take that, Ben. Now I'm really excited for you guys to listen. He is such a great guy and was so open and honest. And I hope you read his book.
Jessica, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good.
Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem at all. I'm happy to talk to you.
Yeah, I loved your book. It was incredible. That's such a hard thing to do. Like, how was your writing process for that?
It was really, really long. I'd say is the best way to do it. I think some authors can probably pump out a book in a month. I took 2 years. It was a lot of like journaling thoughts and then taking my journal and kind of trying to comprehend the overall message. And then I brought in about 6 months left, a ghostwriter to start helping me ask some of the questions that I was no longer able to ask myself because I kind of hit a wall.
Yeah.
Like I just got tired.
Yeah. You were so, I feel like, open, and I think it'll really help people. Was that one of your goals for writing the book too?
It was. Yeah. I mean, that was the only goal. When HarperCollins asked like, hey, you want to write a book? I said, yes, but I don't know what I'd write about.
Yeah.
And I knew I couldn't write about the show because I didn't have a lot of secrets to write about. And so I said, well, I have this journal and I think it would help people relate with each other. Like it's about connection and it's about trying to connect with people well. Maybe that would, and they said, that's the book. And so that's why I wrote it. For anybody out there who feels alone and who feels disconnected, I said, I want to write this book to give it the best shot I can at connecting people again.
Yeah. No big deal. HarperCollins just coming to you,
Yeah, that's weird in itself, right?
That's awesome. What was the easiest chapter to write? Or was there even an easiest chapter?
Oh, I'm sure there was. Yeah, let me think. I feel like the chapters on friendship and community were the easiest because they were the least personal.
Yeah.
There are also ones that I had tangibly experienced. And so writing about the need and the desire for friendship and for community and connection came pretty naturally because I had experienced it because of how great my community was. That flowed pretty easy. And I think I've been lucky to have some really great people around me to show me just how beneficial that can be.
Yeah. Was there a hardest chapter to write?
Yeah. I'd say any chapter, the chapter about, my past of mistreatment of others and addiction really hurt because I've never really shared that. Yeah. The other one was just like the most emotionally difficult was the final section was about a connection with God. And at that moment I was feeling and still feel just like had a lot of doubts, a lot of questions, a lot of emptiness. I was in like kind of the darkness of the soul as the Bible talks about. And that was hard because I didn't want to admit it. And so it came very difficult to me.
Yeah. I feel like, everyone I know has gone through that. So it's so empowering that you talk about it. Like, I feel like a lot of people don't, and it's very common. I went through it, like I know everyone else. So it's really incredible that you talk about and are so open with so many things. So
thank you.
Awesome.
Well, that was the hope, right? That's the hope, is that this book brings people together and it helps people feel less alone.
Yeah.
So my goal was to share something like that would help people go, hey, nobody ever talks about this, but I'm glad that you did.
Yeah. How are you like staying sane right now with COVID and quarantine?
It's wild, right? A lot of exercise.
Yeah.
A lot of fresh air. A lot of interviews right now. So I get to talk to people virtually a lot.
Yeah.
I think the way though I've stayed sane is I do a lot of moments of just sitting in silence, like just like letting the world come over me and like hearing my thoughts and what my body's telling me. And like, that's been really healthy through this whole thing, because if not, I feel like I could find ways to distract myself.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to distract myself from what I'm feeling right now. I think all of us are learning a lot about each other and about, who we are as people.
I love the title of your book too. How did that come about? Because I feel like that's such a hard thing to pick a title to. Like, how did
It was
decide?
a group think effort. There's a lot of people in a room, and we were like, okay, this book is on reconnecting. So I was like, let's call it Reconnection. Like, we don't know if we want that. I was like, okay. And so as we worked through, it's like, what are the feelings that you're feeling? I was like, I feel like I'm alone in plain sight. Like, I feel like I'm out in the world, and yet nobody knows me, and I don't know anybody, and I kind of feel like I'm on an island, even though people are walking past me at all times. And they said, like, what about it then? Let's call it Alone in Plain Sight. And we did.
Yeah. So I've never obviously been on The Bachelor, but I can't imagine how hard it must be to try and be yourself on a TV show where it's like not really yourself, if that even makes sense. Or like, I just feel like it would be really stressful. How did you handle like trying to be yourself on a TV show? Like,
yeah,
so many people watching.
It is really weird, because you go from 0 to 100, meaning you're working your day-to-day job, and then all of a sudden you find yourself on TV at a mansion dating, and you don't really at least I didn't, and I don't think we did think about the entertainment side of it, like that people are going to watch our lives to be entertained by.
Yeah.
But the disorientation of being on the show, trying to navigate it, trying to be yourself, trying not to say the wrong thing, trying just to work through it day by day, and then also knowing that at one point millions of people were going to watch it, is a really weird feeling. It's really odd. And I'd say for me, then then I become The Bachelor, and it gets even weirder, because then everybody's talking about you. And it happens so fast. I mean, it happens a month after you're done with the other shows when you start getting in talks about being on the next show. And it is confusing. I never found it to be difficult personally when it comes to like maybe how I was portrayed, or like what people like that, because it's very real, and I knew I made mistakes. I knew I had to own up to those mistakes. But what I found was really difficult was processing just the quick switch up in life, and being exposed to things that I never knew I'd be exposed to.
If you're like me, you have no time for breakfast. Trust me, I get it. And finding something healthy can sometimes be really difficult. So use Magic Spoon. It's this great cereal. It is low carb, high protein, and Jess and the Guest listeners get 10% off. Again, that's 10% off. Use code Jess and the Guest at www.magicspoon.com. Yeah, I can't imagine. Like, do they give you any like press? Because you're so good at press. I've watched like your Good Morning America stuff. I'm like, how? And so many news outlets, you're really good at it. Did they give you like training or any? Because I would be terrible. Just here you go.
No, you've got a podcast. You're doing this now. You'd be fine.
No.
There's not a lot of training. Now, I can't really remember any like training as much of, I'm sure you could find interviews from when I was on The Bachelorette. They'd be like, oh yeah, he wasn't awesome at this. And then you get better as you do it, because you become more comfortable. Cameras don't maybe intimidate you as much. You don't feel like you've got to put on a face. Like you just kind of get in it, and it feels like what it feels like now.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of training. Maybe that's something they should do.
Yeah. I feel like it would be a lot.
Throw you into it. Yeah.
Dear God. But you handled it so well. I give you a lot of credit, because it's not an easy thing to just all of a sudden you're famous, and I don't know, everyone's trying to get to you. And
it's not easy. It's weird. It doesn't make any sense, and fame in itself doesn't make much sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, the whole thing gets weird fast.
Yeah. How have you stayed so grounded too? Because you have, what I really liked in the book too, you talk about like not really having an ego, or you say it a lot better the way I just said it, but I think that's.
Well, I have an ego. I have an ego. I've got to fight against my ego. I've got to let my ego be subdued, because I've got a big ego. I think one of the things is like my friends and family do hold me accountable. I think that's important. They check me when my ego is getting in the way. The other thing that I think has been really helpful is they've always encouraged me. And then as a result, I've always tried to never make this about me. My fame can come and go. my relevancy can come and go, but the things that I'm investing my time and efforts into, hopefully they'll stay. And so it's never felt, it has felt it when I'm in my weakest. When I'm at my weakest, it feels pressure packed because it feels like I've got to do more.
Yeah.
Or find a way to stay in the headlines.
Yeah.
When I'm healthiest, I'm just doing what I know and what I believe is good and right and loving, and then letting anything else that comes follow.
Yeah.
Some would argue that hasn't been wise, that, you could have used this whole platform to stay relevant and get paid to be famous. That could have been really amazing. But instead, for me, I just know that like this Bachelor world isn't going to last forever. Yeah. And I don't have a tangible skill set to keep me famous. And so I had to just kind of focus on something different.
Yeah. Come to comedy, come be a comedian. You'll be great.
I've done it once.
Really?
Yeah, I did it on a show that I hosted for NBC and called First Look.
Oh, yeah.
And they had me do stand-up. And it was awful. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. It's so hard.
It's also, I can't imagine your first time doing that to be on an NBC show. Like, no big deal,
Right? Yeah. Not only do you do stand-up in one of the most famous comedy clubs in the US, but then let's put it on national television, let everybody laugh at you. Yeah, it's rough.
Same. So during filming, did you really have a parasite? That's crazy.
I did. It was bad.
How did you do that?
I got a parasite in Honduras, and Honduras is a great place. I go all the time, and I just got it like kind of randomly, and came back, and I had let it just like grow in my gut, and nobody really knew what was going on. Everybody knew I was sick, but nobody really knew why. And it wasn't until like maybe a month or two after the show that it finally like got me to where like I was like hurting, like violently sick.
Yeah.
And I'd already lost 30 pounds throughout the show.
Oh my God.
And I was still losing weight after the show. And I just kind of gotten used to it. Like I was kind of like being able to function every day with this stomach ache. Yeah. Well, finally it hit me and I couldn't like function. And so I went to the doctor and like, you have a worm in your gut. Like not just one, like many, like they multiply. It was brutal. Like looking back, it's almost like dark comedy where it's like, of course you're going to be the Bachelor. You're supposed to be feeling your greatest, you have to be confident. All these people are dating you. You should be feeling great about yourself. But instead in my mind, I was just like, I am sick. Nobody wants to date me right now. Like, this is not going to be okay.
Well, I would never have guessed that. You were amazing, but dear God, I can't imagine how hard that must be.
Weird, really weird. Yeah.
Did you just like run out on a lot of times or like?
Often. There's 3 different times. In fact, we were in the Bahamas once, and I was so sick, and we were supposed to have a cocktail party. And it's so funny to watch back now or to see these seasons that have gone on since me and see kind of the behind the scenes. But I was laying on the bed in my underwear, and I was like sprawled out on the bed, and they had fans on me. And Chris Harrison walks in and he's like, "Are you good?" I said, "I don't think so. I'm not good at all. Like I'm fever, sweating. I can't get out of the bathroom."
Yeah. And
he's like, "We have to cancel, don't we?" I said, "We got to cancel. Like I cannot." So he comes out and he goes, "Ladies, Ben knows what he wants to do tonight." And I did. I wanted to get out of there. So we're just going to go right to the rose ceremony. And we did. We skipped everything and went to the rose ceremony. Poor staff like had set up this whole beautiful house for us. And I was just like, guys, you don't want me here tonight.
That's so insane. I feel like you need to write another book too of just these stories of your life.
I'm just got to write them down too. Like I just need to write down we all do. I think we should all write down all the crazy stuff that we've all, had happen to us and that we've been a part of.
Did anyone give you advice for The Bachelor?
Yeah, I talked to Chris Soules, I talked to Sean Lowe, and I talked to Jason Mesnick right before, I guess it was on TV, which was really helpful and nice. Yeah. I hadn't really reached out to anybody. Yeah. I think I reached out to Sean Lowe to ask him some stuff, but I hadn't really reached out to anybody because I didn't know if that was a thing to do or not. Yeah. Like I didn't know people did that. Now it feels like it's very, like everybody does it. But I didn't know what I should do.
I know. What advice did you give Matt? I know you were on TV, but any good advice?
Well, for Matt, He's a good dude and he has a lot of skills and he's super caring. And I just told him, like, don't let your head get too big and don't let it get too small, because people are going to love you. They're going to adore you and you're going to feel like you're king of the world. But then also people are going to criticize you. It happens every time. And I said that way before any criticism actually happened. So he knew that like everybody gets it, no matter how good you do this thing.
Yeah.
And I said, don't let your head get too small, because you're too great for that. And so that's kind of where it went. I also just talked to him about his reaction. You know, Matt, there's not like a lot of advice I like to give, more than just be there to answer any questions or to hear kind of where their heart's at. But the only advice I gave was that never let your head get too big or too small. And then also you can control your reaction. Like, you know, be careful on how you react to things, because it can have a multiplying effect if like you react poorly to something. So just stay level-headed, take a couple deep breaths. And if you do that, then this is going to be fine.
I feel like you should be a motivational speaker too. I'm like, yes, I should do that in my
Yeah, we should all, right? Yeah. Maybe better if we didn't react so much.
I know, like, so wise. Were you surprised by any of the celebrity fans that are like that Jennifer Aniston is a fan of yours and like all of that?
Yes, very much so. I mean, Kevin Hart and Ice Cube were on my season. Like, that's wild. Yeah, this is weird. I mean, there's nothing about that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That I was in a car with them and we were on a show together. Like, that's hilarious. So yes, it's been surprising how many people are fans of the show. There's a lot of fans of The Bachelor. They're everywhere. I mean, it's a huge show still.
What do you think of the two Bachelorettes now? How do you think the next 2 seasons will be and all of that?
I want to learn more about it. I don't know kind of what the structure is going to look like. I mean, I don't know either of them very well. I don't know at all personally, but like watching the show, I think, you know, they're going to be fun to watch and it's going to be interesting, as it always is. And obviously there's a lot of change up and switch ups with this season from top to bottom. And it's going to be interesting to see what the show looks like and how it operates. But I don't know the structure of it's 2 separate seasons, and are they going to be, you know, full seasons or shortened seasons? I just don't know any of that yet. Yeah. But I mean, I'm excited for it. It gives me more content to talk about on the podcast, which is always good.
All right, Jess and the guest listeners, if you're watching this on YouTube, and statistically around 80% of you are, use the below coupon or links. It'll take you to fabletics.com. It's the only leggings I wear. It's different sets every month. It's 2 for $24. Your first pair, that's insane. I can't get 1 pair for under $70 in Los Angeles. This is great athletic wear. It's gym wear. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Okay, who's wearing dresses right now? Okay, you think I dress up like this normally? No. Use fabletics.com. Use the links right below. Link, subscribe, click. You know what to do. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I love your podcast. I love that you guys talk about. I feel like the least interesting thing about people is like the show that they were on. There are so many more interesting things. So I love that you talk about that.
Oh yeah.
Is there any guest you've had on that surprised?
Yeah, we learned that early on, is that, you know, we could talk about the show, but like at what point does that just get really old for people?
Yeah.
So let's start talking about things that matter, and their stories definitely matter.
Yeah.
And we wanted to hear their stories, and so we dig into their stories. And I think that's the best part of our podcast is hopefully that people can come on and explain who they are.
Yeah. No. Do you have any podcast advice? Because you're so successful. I have no idea what I'm doing. So any advice I will gladly take.
Just keep being you. You know, people are going to listen to you because they like you. You can't be anything but you. Just, you know, for any type long period of time.
Yeah.
So keep being you. You're going to say some stuff that's going to be wrong. You're going to say some stuff that's going to be great. This is, you know, the coolest part about a podcast is to journey with you and the people that listen as you grow and as they grow. But yeah, you know, be confident in who you are, because there's a reason that people will be tuning in. It's because they like you, or maybe they don't. A lot of people listen to Almost Famous don't like me, but they listen to not like me, and that's fine too. I guess it helps pay the bills.
Yeah. People are crazy. How did you deal with like negative attention too? Like, I feel like that would be so hard. I mean, just from like comedy, I get stuff. So I'm like, how do you do it when you're famous, dealing with like just the internet in general?
Well, I don't handle it well. It still hurts often. I think those things the tools that I've been able to have though are figuring out a little bit more of who I am. Like, I don't want to dismiss criticism and say, no, I'll just do me. I'm doing everything right, because I know I'm not. And so I want to listen enough to be held accountable, to grow and to change and to try to hurt as little amount of people as possible.
Yeah.
So I do take some of that in, but I filter it then through family and friends and say, hey, somebody said this and it's sticking with me. Is it true or is it not? And if they say it's not, then I can move forward and move on. But yeah, I'd say for the most part, it still gets me. It's not fun. It's not it's not a beneficial aspect of having people, but I guess at the same time, I would rather people have some opinion of me than nothing at all.
Yeah.
And so I have to look at it like that too. At least they're saying something.
Yeah. You're so wise, Ben. Like I would never have guessed before reading your book, like how it's very inspiring. You're so philosophical.
Well, no, I say a lot, and I'm just hoping one or two things make sense, and then we move. Then you say, "Hey, nice job," and I say, "Thank you," and we move on. Everybody's like, "Oh man, he said something good."
Yeah. No, I know you're getting married soon. Will you do any of your lip sync dance battle like at the wedding? Any dance
Sure.
moves? Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a dance move I've had forever called the Higgy, and you just put your hands up like this.
Oh my
You put them out in front of you. You can do one hand, you can do either hand, you can do both hands, you can do them up here, you can do it down low. That's going to come out because it's where I live. It's where I live with my dance moves.
Oh, how is planning a wedding? And I can't even imagine how hard that is in this time. Like, has it been really challenging?
It's been pushed back. We're going to get married in November of this year, hopefully. Well, we're going to get married no matter what. But Jessica's been doing a lot of it. Yeah. I don't know I'm sure it's been difficult for her. I need to give her a little more love and credit because she's done a lot of it. But, with it being pushed back and with everything consistently changing, it has gotten difficult.
Yeah.
But I think everybody has felt that who's planning a wedding or a big event. And so we're not alone in that. But it just takes some navigating and some patience. And that's not always stuff that either of us have when we're planning such a big day.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm ordained. So just saying, if you need anyone, you need
so
a backup.
So am I. We can do it for each other.
Yeah. Did you were planning a flash mob proposal or something?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was on tour for the Bachelor Live on Stage. I was hosting it with Becca Kufrin, and our dancers were like, we're going to do a flash mob. We'll get our friends together and we'll do this awesome flash mob for your proposal. And I was like, that's incredible. We're going to do it to Frank Sinatra, which was her grandfather's favorite song.
Oh, yeah.
Our favorite artist.
Yeah.
And then that got canceled, right? Once COVID hit. So we did it in Franklin, Tennessee, where her family lives instead. In her backyard, which was special and it was beautiful. And it was what it was supposed to be, it felt like.
Oh, that's so nice. And wait, can you tell me about Generous Coffee too? I know you co-founded it and everyone I know loves it. So how did that come about? Yeah. Well,
so Generous Coffee came about because 11 years ago, my buddy started a nonprofit that I kind of joined on to called Humanity and Hope United. Mm-hmm. And Humanity and Hope United was doing great things. But the one thing that we were lacking is a sustainable fundraising source. So my friend and I came up with this idea that if we created a for-profit, for-purpose business, so for-profit business, sold products, but then donated 100% of the profits to nonprofits and social causes around the world, then we could be a sustainable fundraising source for these nonprofits. And that's where Generous started, was with the idea that we could donate first and build a business and scale a business and have more to donate on the back end. And so Generous sells mostly coffee. It's specialty grade coffee, so it's the highest graded coffee you can get in the world, best tasting coffee. You can go to generouscoffee.com to buy it. It means a lot. And then every bag is going to something greater, something better. And it's been a really cool project to be a part of.
It's so incredible too. I mean, good for you. You're making the world such a better place. It's awesome to see.
Some would argue that, but I try.
Yeah. Are you working on anything now? I mean, you've done so much, like any other things?
Yeah, I'm really trying to formulate what this thing I do called Hope Still Wins is going to be. It's a show I do on Instagram Live on Wednesday nights with incredible thinkers and people I look up to. And we just ask them where they're at in life and what they're up to, but then also, do they believe in hope? And if they do, why? And if not, why not? I want that to be something good for a long period of time. And so we're working on that and trying to figure out what that thing is going to be, that next season of life and growth for it.
Yeah.
Then I have a company that my buddy and I just started a year ago that's doing really well, and it could be of interest to somebody listening, but it's called My Fan Threads, and My Fan Threads is a custom print on demand apparel company. And so we take banks, celebrities, nonprofit schools, whatever, and we can design apparel with you and then put it up on our website or make a website for you. And then you don't have to carry an inventory. So it's all print on demand. So as soon as somebody clicks the button and pushes order, then the machine goes and grabs it, prints it, and sends it. So you take the risk out of carrying inventory, which saves you a ton of money and eliminates a lot of risk.
Yeah.
And so that's been a really fun project because it's kind of spread my network, because I've gotten to talk to some really incredible people who are now using us. So those are the big things right now outside of Generous and the podcast.
Yeah.
And the book. Those are like the things I'm focused on.
Dear God, you just said so many things too. I'm like, God, I'm doing one thing and I'm tired. How are you doing all of this?
I'm really doing one thing too. I just kind of like, I just say it all and then hope that it comes together somehow.
No, well, Ben, you're incredible. Thank you so much for doing this. I mean, I feel like there's nothing you can't do at this point. I'm like, what else? But thank you. Yeah, thank you for everything. You're amazing. Thank you,
Jessica,
for doing it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for talking. Best of luck with this.
Oh, thanks.
And wishing you the best.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to Jess and the Guest. Please like, subscribe. You know the drill. All right. Tune in next Thursday for a brand new episode. And thank you again.